Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, dear God. Do any of you even remember this? Do any of you even recall that this exists? I certainly do. I remember it fondly. I remember hating that video, and it's the entire reason why I stopped making it for so long. Yeah, it's been about 6 months since that video came out, and I just didn't want to do another one, because I was so unimpressed with the result. But I'm back now, and this time I'm gonna do it better, I hope, I think, maybe. Please! And allow me to explain to you how I did that. Step 1, get a script. Very good, I'm looking at it right now. Step 2, get a microphone. I'm a child, I cannot afford that. Step 3, pick a god and pray. Boom, we did it. Lovely. I didn't even do all the steps, what is wrong with me? First, let's recap both the in-universe and out-of-universe lore of this region. The actual story behind this in real life is that I made this about 4 years ago, just comprised of any hodgepodge. It's not based off of any real-world region. It was just a child making a Pokémon region for fun. On the other hand, the in-universe lore is this. About a century or two back, Team Alpha decided that natural order was dumb and thought the world would be better if humans controlled all life. This led to most life being genetically modified versions of their former selves, some of them just being straight artificial. They ruined everything. It was terrible. We had a good thing going here, but you just had to ruin it. You just had to blow it up. What do you have to say for yourself? I was having a nice time with my dog, and boom, I guess it's a pinecone now, I guess. I'm actually starting to run out of oxygen. With all the nonsense out of the way, let's just get into our first Pokemon. We're almost 2 minutes in, and I haven't even talked about the first Pokemon. Jesus. So our first round of Pokemon is just going to be all the early route blank Pokemon, you know, the early route mammal, the early route bird, the bug, you know, and we're going to be starting with the early route normal type. I'm not calling it the early route mammal since it is not a mammal. It's not even an animal. So, our first Pokemon of the day is Michael. It's a pun, because it's like a microphone. Michael is pretty simple. It's just a small microphone head with some legs and eyes. As such, I imagine it will learn mostly sound-based moves, not really a specific type. And while I could have made it a sound-type Pokemon, since this is my first time, I'm not really ambitious enough to invent a new type. In the wild, it uses its odd appearance to distract predators, so that they'll not eat it. In many cases, they'll just find it unappetizing and won't even try. In battle, though, it's comically easy to take out, being the early route normal type and all. Now, as all early route normal types should, it evolves. At level 20, this is Doom Boom. Upon evolving, it becomes a normal fighting type and gets the very useful ability Steel Worker. Most of Doom Boom's stats are in its offensive side and its HP, whereas Michael was HP and just its special stats. Its giant speakers can both be used to whack someone and produce supersonic signals, so that's why it's balanced in its offensive stats. Once again, expect a lot of sound-based moves. One last thing I'll say about this line is that Michael is named after M&J TV. That's just a random fact, it doesn't actually have much relevance, I just thought I'd mention it. Now, let me ask you a question. Is Whiplash fun? Now on that topic, here's Snazzle, our early route bird. So let me summarize this. Basically, you combine a bird with a rat, then you make it fabulous. And then you give it head trauma. That's basically Snazzle. He uses a combination of acrobatic flying maneuvers and magical pixie powers, so, like Doom Boom before it, it's mostly offense. Also, staring into its eyes is basically the equivalent of staring into a fully bright light bulb. It's gonna hurt your eyes and could even cause blindness if you do it for too long. Then, at level 28, it evolves into Whiptail. As the name suggests, it uses its tail as a whip, which it can do now because it's a lot longer. However, the tail in its name is spelled as in fairy tale because it's a fairy type. In battle, this thing is the definition of a glass cannon, having nearly all of its stats built into offense and speed, not having any bulk. One thing I will say though is that it absolutely decimates the starters. Infestai is weak to flying, Trappunch is weak to fairy, and E6's fire type negates the fairy weakness. It's not bulky enough or faster, so it's not going to live a hit. Now let me ask you another question, and this time a serious one. Do you think early route bugs should be weak and useless, or do you think they should be really powerful and scary? Well, what if I did both? Like maybe I can do a Magikarp Gyarados thing. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. Our first stage is Kataroto. I kind of like this guy, but admittedly, they're not very useful in battle. On the one hand, it has a base stat total of 200, which is the worst we've seen so far. But on the other hand, it evolves really early, at level 12. Its evolution is Propel Larva. It's like a propeller and larva. It's a base stat total of 300, and I don't have much to say about it on its own, so these next two things apply to both this and Kataroto. First of all, the bug flying type is not good. Like, it's fun, and it's pretty simple, and it fits on the best, but it's just not good. The other thing is, these guys are fast. Like, Propel Larva has a base speed stat of 103. The only Pokemon than that has been higher is freaking Whiptail. Okay, they might be fast, but still, a middle stage with a base stat total lower than all the first stage starters. That's not good. But it evolves one more time. This is Fierce Worm. I'm doing that Applin thing to where I took a bug, like a worm, and instead I made it like a Wyrm, like with a Y, the dragon. It was a caterpillar, but whatever, it's a dragon bug type, and it has stats on par with the fully evolved starters. Interesting fact, it's actually slower than Kataroto, only by a single point, but it's still the slowest member of its line, despite being undeniably the best. One last thing, it has the ability Huge Power, so have fun with that. Okay, so we're done with all the early route tropes, so the last ones are just going to be my own personal toss-ins. And if you pay attention to my community post, these next ones might seem a bit familiar to you. These are the version-exclusive water types that you can find on the earliest lakes. This is Flopfish, and this is Capicarp. They're both pure water type, and I have to say, these two have pros and cons to using them. Flopfish has the better type coverage, while Capicarp has the better stats. These bonuses apply to their evolutions as well. They both have a certain dynamic with each other as well. For example, Flopfish is a result of evolution, like real-life evolution, where this fish evolved to be land-dwelling, and Capicarp is, well, it's one of Team Alpha's little wretched experiments. Basically, the fish fused with all the trash they were throwing in the water, and as the script says, water bottle cap fishy boy. I couldn't have put it better myself. Now, Flopfish evolves at level 24 and Capicarp a level later. Boom! This is Brawlbrella and Capalfin. The fact that Brawlbrella is the one that gets a secondary type, while Capalfin is still pure water, reflects the whole one of them is coverage, the other is just pure strength kind of dynamic these two have. Essentially, Brawlbrella has all of the elemental punches, a little bit of rock and steel moves, some flying moves, and a bunch of protecting moves. On the other hand, the best moves that Capalfin gets are water, normal, and poison. Not much else. Now, our penultimate line for the video, starting off with the little guy, it's Lil Guy, the normal fighting orb with giant hands. Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't have put him around this early, but you'll see later in the series, there's a reason why he's here this early. He has the fun little quirk of evolving when he gains levels in a daycare specifically. I have in my script that the time that you're going to get there is going to be a while, but actually, the time that you're going to get there, a lot of your other ones are just about to evolve, so actually you might get him a bit earlier than the other ones we've discussed so far. I'll Handle It. That's the name. It sounds like I'll handle it, so much to the point where you probably just thought I was saying that, but his name is I'll Handle It. There's a reason behind it, I swear. The story is that there was another miscellaneous creature I made like a few years back who also had similarly giant hands, and that was one of the suggested names for him. And I didn't name that I'll Handle It, so this guy gets to be named I'll Handle It instead. How fun. And you know what, I'll just go ahead and say it. Any move that requires the usage of hands, this guy can learn. He can learn any hand move. All of them. This is insane, and that's honestly the most impressive thing about him. Both of these two are just kind of there. Outside of lore, there isn't much of a purpose for them, honestly. Sorry. And at long last, we're at the last line of the video. And of course, I've saved the biggest one for last, because this line has the structure of the Wurmple line. There's 5 of them. I've saved the longest one for last, because I hate myself. Anyways, let's start with the first dingus, Micrug. He's a micro bug. is a pure bug type, and is the second lowest BST of any Pokemon in this region. And like the other useless early bug type, he's got a decent speed stat. He's got another interesting evolution method in which he evolves depending on the nature. If the nature boosts attack, special attack, or speed, it becomes Fanano. If the nature boosts HP, defense, or special defense, it becomes Toxtiny. Fanano remains pure bug, however Toxtiny gains the poison type, as you probably could have guessed by its name. If I tried to say that these two are balanced, that would be a lie. I mean, they have balanced stats, but in terms of versatility, Toxtiny has a much better edge. And I'll go into more detail in this when we get to the final stages, but honestly we might as well just cut there because Fanano is basically just a stronger Micrug, and Toxtiny is basically just a weaker version of what it evolves into. So, at level 30, Fanano will evolve into Sonari, and Toxtiny will evolve into Poizo. Sonari is basically like all the other Pokemon that are mostly built in offense and speed, but instead of having poor to decent bulk, it basically has no bulk whatsoever. Like, it'll go first, and it'll do a lot of damage, but if it gets hit even once, it's dying. Sonari cannot take a single hit. Meanwhile, Poizo is the other end of the coin. It's typing, giving it less weaknesses. Out of any Pokemon, it's probably one of the best to set up. It gets Toxic Spike, Sticky Web, maybe a Weather Move, and probably U-Turn if you want it to stick around for a while for whatever reason. But at the end of the day, they still both have a base stat total of 430, the lowest of any fully evolved Pokemon in the region. So you're gonna have better alternatives for both of them, in all honesty. Finally! We're done! Oh my... You actually stuck around to the end. Words cannot express how much it means to me. Thank you so much. Next time, I'm going to go over the cave Pokemon, which will be a lot shorter. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'm Hollowed Skies. Goodbye!